Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. We are back again with the fourth session of Indian economy, where we will follow the same format. We will have MCQs, and based on those MCQs, we will discuss the vital concepts, themes of different chapters of economy concerning that particular question. And those concepts and themes will help you analyze how to attempt MCQs and how to prepare a broader framework from one given question. Having said that, let us start. The first question is with reference to the markets in crypto assets regulation. Consider the following statements. Statement 1. It has been approved by the European Union to bring largely unregulated cryptocurrency markets under government regulation. This statement is absolutely correct because this is the fundamental problem with crypto assets, that these assets are unregulated, and that creates whole lots of issues in the minds of customers, in the minds of regulators and the governments who are policymakers. Because since these assets are unregulated, it is difficult to track the source and origin and destination of those assets. And that is why to bring in uniformity, it's a very important step initiated by ESMA, that is European Securities and Markets Authority. ESMA is the institution like our SEBI, which regulates capital market transactions, be it money market issues, be it capital market issues, or in nutshell, with regards to financial assets. So this institution, ESMA, conceived this MiCA in June 2023, and it is expected that this entire conversation will be concluded by December 2024. This markets and crypto assets regulation is based on 5 pillars. Also known as packages. And since all 5 packages cannot be implemented in one go, ESMA is implementing it in phased manner. And this is a uniform regulation which will bring uniformity across European Union among all the states, all the countries of European Union. So this statement is correct. Statement number 2, it will also regulate central bank digital currencies issued by the European Central Bank. Now, prima facie, this statement is wrong. Because whenever central bank or banking institutions are involved, they themselves are regulated. So there is no need to further regulate them. Regulation is meant for those entities, those assets which are hitherto unregulated. But the statement says central bank digital currencies means such digital currencies issued by the central bank. And if central bank is issuing, that means due diligence is being followed. So second statement is not correct. That thereby the answer of this question will be A. Only first statement is correct with regards to MiCA. Now, second question. Consider the following statements. an increase in the GDP always leads to the welfare of the people. Here the word always makes the statement incorrect, because it might happen that GDP is increasing, but there is no proper distribution of fruits of GDP. GDP is concentrated in few pockets, in few hands, so there is no necessary connection. There is connection, but there is no necessary connection that if GDP goes up, invariably it will lead to the welfare of the people. It may or it may not be. If there is very higher degree of inequality in the country, where few people are very rich and masses are poor, then even though if GDP is increasing, it will not have proportionate impact on the welfare of the people. So first statement is incorrect. Now second statement, negative externalities are not taken into account while calculating GDP. This statement is correct. Rather, externalities are not accounted for, be it negative or be it positive. Now what is externality? Externality means when actions of two parties affect the third party. If the effect is positive, government encourages, and if effect on the third party is negative, government discourages. For example, when a car manufacturer makes a battery driven car and a buyer who purchases it, so two parties are here, car manufacturer and buyer, but its impact on the third party, that is on environment, is positive. It helps in environmental conservation. It helps in controlling greenhouse emission. It is actually discouraging global warming. That is why you find this positive impact is encouraged by the government in the form of various subsidies that government provides, not only to the manufacturer, but also to the buyer. So externalities are not taken into account while calculating GDP is a correct statement. Third, non-monetary exchanges are not registered as part of economic activities in GDP calculation. GDP, the meaning of GDP is monetary value of goods and services produced. All such transactions and exchanges which are non-monetary in nature, they cannot be considered because there is no monetary value. For example, services of housewives, old goods, goods made for self-use, capital gains, or unilateral capital transfers, charity donations, black money. These are non-monetary exchanges, and these are not included, or these cannot be included because there is no monetary transaction. That is why third statement is also correct. So the answer will be 2 and 3, B for Bombay. Second and third statements are correct. Now the third question. Consider the following statements with regarding the wholesale price index, that is WPI. First statement, it is published by the economic advisor in the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. This statement is correct. Second, fuel and power are given highest weightage in it. This statement is not correct because it is not fuel and power, it is manufacturing. Manufacturing has the highest weightage. Third statement, it tracks inflation at the producer's level only. No, this is also incorrect, because an index which tracks inflation at the producer level is called PPI, Producer's Price Index. On the other hand, WPI tracks inflation at wholesale level, not at production level. And fourth statement, it does not capture changes in the prices of services, correct? So first and fourth statements are correct, because WPI is only a goods index. WPI does not include any type of service. In CPI, services are included. So, question is, which of the statements given above are not correct? Statement 2 and statement 3. These two statements are not correct. So, correct answer is C. Now, next question. Which of the following are included in the quota formula for special drawing rights in International Monetary Fund finances? Means based on which criteria IMF allocates quota? First is population size. No. Population size has no role to play in the determination of quota at IMF. Second, weighted average of GDP. Correct. GDP has 50% weightage. Openness of economy. Correct. It has 30% weightage. Third, economic variability. Correct. It has 15% weightage. Now, there is one more component which decides quota, and that is international reserves. It has 5% quota. So thereby, first one is not correct, population size. Second, third and fourth are correct. That means answer is A of this question. Now, next question. The term rules of origin is sometimes seen in the news with reference to A. Permitting foreign educational institutions to set up their campuses in the domestic country. No. Second, regulating investment through participatory notes to prevent round tripping of black money. Incorrect. Third, granting licenses to foreign e-commerce firms to operate in the domestic economy. Incorrect. And last, developing trading norms to prevent jumping of foreign goods in the domestic market. This one is correct. Rules of origin. It is a concept of WTO, where member countries, they try to protect their domestic market by fixing quota for the exporting countries. Now it may happen that an exporting country to India, hypothetically, tries to bypass that quota by rerouting its commodity through some other country. Like suppose India has fixed a quota for Chinese goods. Once China exhausted that quota, China starts taking advantage of Nepalese route. China sends its commodity first to Nepal. Then through Nepal, it sends its commodity to India. Then how India will decide whether this commodity belongs to Nepal or it is coming from China? Hence, to determine that, during Kyoto round of negotiations, rules of origin were negotiated. If Nepal says that, no, this commodity belongs to me, this goods belongs to me, it is not coming from China, Nepal may take side. Then Nepal will have to prove that a substantial amount of value addition was done in Nepal. a substantial amount of value addition in that commodity has taken place in Nepal. And if it is unable to prove that, then that commodity will be considered as originating from China. So, rules of origin, an instrument of WTO to protect domestic market from the aggressive trading strategies of exporting countries. So, in this question, answer is D. Now, next question. In the context of banking reforms for strengthening the financing system in rural India, the year 1982 is important because the first regional rural bank came into that year. No. The first RRB was set up in 1975, 2nd October. It did not come in 1982. Second, it was the year in which the first phase of nationalization of banks took place. This is also incorrect. First phase of nationalization happened in 1969 when 14 banks were nationalized. Third, National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, NABARD, was set up. Yes, this is the correct answer. So answer is C. And fourth option is the Reserve Bank of India introduced and formalized the concept of priority sector lending, PSL. This is also incorrect because PSL came in 1967 after 2 years of severe drought in 1966 and in 1967, which had a very devastating impact on small-scale cottage industries, on vulnerable sections of the society, on agriculture. And that is why, to give them a kind of push, to provide them relief, the government introduced the concept of PSL, priority sector lending, in 1967 and not in 1982. Hence, this question, answer is C. A further information that you need to look into is NABARD comes under All India Finance Institution. And prior to 1992, this NABARD was known as Agriculture Refinance and Development Corporation. Its name was changed in 1982. Now, apart from NABARD, under AIFI, we have 3 more institutions like Exim Bank, like NHB, National Housing Bank, and SIDBI. Exim Bank, NHB, and NABARD, these 3. These are wholly owned by the Government of India. But SIDBI is a subsidiary of IDBI Bank. Why I am giving you this information is, you need to prepare question this way, holistically. If you think of NABARD, then other 3 All India Finance Institutions, their main functions, some recent changes introduced by the government in NHB, National Housing Bank. Then you will have mastery over not only this question, but also the related information, because question might not get repeated in the examination, but the themes and concepts that you will work around, that will be helpful, because from there only questions will be asked. Now moving to another question. Consider the following statements regarding the inflation targeting in Indian economy. First, inflation targeting is a statutory and institutionalized framework under the RBI Act 1934. This statement is correct because this 1934 Act was amended in 2016. So this first statement is correct. Second statement, inflation target is set up by the RBI in consultation with the central bank. Incorrect. Central government. Incorrect. Central government provides them with a range or a band. And what is that band today? 4% plus minus 2%. So range has to be between 2 to 6%. This is the concept. But thereafter it is RBI which sets inflation target based on the current scenario and reality of Indian economy, whether we are facing headwinds, whether we are facing tailwinds. So RBI decides. There is no consultation with the government needed. So in this question, answer will be A. Only first option is correct. Next question. In the context of economy, which of the following best describes the term official reserve sale? What is official reserve sale? It simply means the deficit of current account is compensated by transferring of capital from capital account. And this is how balance of payment is achieved. Because in balance of payment, we know that there are two accounts, current account and capital account. If export is less and import is more, that means current account will be in deficit. In that scenario, that gap is filled by the capital which is available in the capital account. That is official reserve sale. Now look at the option. It is the sale of foreign exchange by the Reserve Bank when there is a deficit in its balance of payment. Absolutely correct. So first option is the answer. Second, it is the sale of government stake in public sector units for the process of disinvestment. No. Incorrect. Third, it is the printing of currency by the Reserve Bank for financing the fiscal deficit. This statement is also incorrect because this is called monetization of deficit. This is not official reserve sale. And last, it is the sale of government securities by the RBI. This is nothing but open market operation. So in this question, if you know the meaning of official reserve sale, easily you can answer option A is the correct answer. Now next question. Which of the following statements best describe the term inflationary gap? Very simple question, inflationary gap. This is also known as semi-inflation or bottleneck inflation. The concept of semi-inflation or bottleneck inflation was propounded by John Maynard Keynes. According to Keynes, if liquidity increases, employment opportunities also increase. Thereafter, if we extrapolate this statement, after some time, we reach to a level of perfect liquidity and there is proportionate level of perfect employment in the economy. But if after achieving perfect employment status, if government keeps pumping liquidity beyond that point, that creates inflationary gap, and that is known as semi-inflation or bottleneck inflation. Now, since we know the definition now, option A, it is the difference between the real and nominal GDP of a country. Incorrect. Because in the correct option, the word employment has to be there. Because Keynes defines inflation in the context of liquidity vis-a-vis employment. Second option, it is the difference between the current real GDP and the GDP of an economy operating at full employment. This option is correct. Third, it is the difference between the GNP and GDP of a country. Not correct. And fourth, none. So answer is B for Bombay. Next question. With reference to PM Street Vendors Atmanirbhar Nidhi, PM SVANidhi scheme, consider the following statements. First, it is a central sector scheme to facilitate street vendors access to collateral-free capital loans. Correct statement. Under this scheme, vendors are not supposed to provide any collateral to financial institutions or banks. So this statement is correct. Second, it facilitates an initial working capital loan of up to 10 lakh rupees. This is not correct because amount is 10,000, not 10 lakh. And third statement, street vendors, hawkers of both the urban and rural areas are covered under it. Absolutely correct. And the cutoff date to cover the urban, semi-urban and rural vendors, cutoff date was 24th March 2020. So first and third statements are correct. Answer is C. Now, in the first statement, you find this term, central sector scheme. And there is another centrally sponsored scheme. The difference between the two is central sector scheme 100% financed by the central government plus implementation by central agencies only. States have no role to play. But in centrally sponsored scheme, finance is shared between the center and states. And second, implementation responsibility lies with the state. Now you have to make a comprehensive list of important center sector scheme and important centrally sponsored schemes. Then this question will be completed. Next question. Consider the following pairs. In pair 1, left side, General Agreements on Trade in Services, GATS. It is a treaty of WTO. Under this treaty of GATS, services are divided into 4 categories. First is mode 1. Under mode 1, what happens is, without changing the physical location, we provide services to our offshore clients. That means cross-border trade. I am not changing my physical location. I am sitting in India, but I am providing my services to an American. So need to change physical location is not necessary under mode 1. Mode 2, under mode 2 what happens is, when Indian or tourists go to other countries or foreign tourists, they come to India, and when they consume, say Taj Mahal, they consume Indian heritage sites, Indian tourist spots. Likewise, Indians go abroad, they consume foreign sites, foreign goods and services. That comes under mode 2, that is consumption abroad. Third is mode 3. Mode 3 means when suppose Indian banks, Indian insurance companies, Indian mutual funds, Indian hotels, Indian schools, Indian universities, they open their branches out of India. Likewise, when foreign institutions, foreign banks, foreign hotels, they open their branches in India. Commercial presence. Only for commercial purposes they are present in India, and our entities are present outside India. So such services come under mode 3. Mode 4, here change of physical location is necessary. I can freely go to America, England, European Union. I can work there. Likewise, they can freely come to India. They can work here. So presence of natural persons, that comes under mode 4. So in this question, no pair is correctly matched. So answer is D for Delhi, none. Additional information that you need to remember is, between developing and developed countries, there is consensus so far as mode 1, mode 2 and mode 3 services are concerned. Developed countries, they want that developing countries should open their borders for mode 1 services, for mode 2 services and mode 3 services. But on the other hand, on the contrary, developed countries are not ready to cooperate with mode 4 services with developing countries. That is the basic point of disagreement between developed and developing countries. They wish that developing countries should open their borders for mode 1, 2 and 3, but they are not ready to open their borders under mode 4 for developing countries. Now, what are the issues? What is India's stand and how it is hitting India or hurting India? That we will discuss in mains examination. So for this question, answer is D for Delhi. Now next question. The National Credit Framework has been formulated to fulfill the vision of, it's very simple question, National Education Policy. This National Credit Framework is an inclusive umbrella where students of all streams, from schools, from higher studies, from vocational training, from skill training, their report card is generated, their credit score is generated based on their performance across different verticals. So this is a kind of very innovative provision of National Education Policy. So for this question, answer would be A. Next question. The ease, which of the following best describes the term liquidity? It's a very simple but tricky question, and UPSC keeps asking this question. Like UPSC will give you different types of assets, and those assets you have to arrange in terms of either decreasing order or increasing order. Now, what is liquidity? Liquidity has two components. First, ease of convertibility, which can be easily convertible or converted. And second, no or less loss of value. So any asset can be converted into some other asset. Any land can be converted into cash. Any building can be converted into cash. But if landlord makes haste, or if landlord is in hurry, there would be huge loss of value. That is why every asset is liquid. The question is of less liquid or more liquid. Everything is liquid because everything can be converted. If I am ready to sell my car at 80% discount, I can convert. But there would be a loss of 80%. So the question is less convertible or less liquid or more liquid. Internationally, gold is the most liquid asset, followed by cash, because cash is accepted or can be accepted within a domestic territory only. But gold has universal acceptance. That is why theoretically gold is the most liquid asset, more liquid than cash, because it is beyond boundary. But if you talk about any particular country, then cash or currency of that country is the most liquid. So in this question, answer is A, because it fulfills both the components. The ease with which an asset can be converted, convertibility component, without a significant loss of value component as well. So in this question, answer is A. Now, next question. Consider the following statements regarding Self-reliant India Fund. Statement 1. This fund provides equity funding to micro, small and medium enterprises in India. Correct statement. Because this SRI fund has been constituted keeping in mind micro, small and medium enterprises and help them and fulfill their credit needs, investment needs. Second, it is a SEBI registered category 2 alternative investment fund. Statement is correct, but what is AIF? That is alternative investment fund. And what is category 2? AIF is nothing but a fund created by wealthy individuals or by the contributions of wealthy individuals, wealthy groups, wealthy family offices, where fund manager ensures very heavy return to them. So AIF is nothing but a pooled investment, where investment is based on contribution by different entities, or you can say that AIF is nothing but a new form of venture capital. And fund manager who is managing that fund gives guarantee or assures investors that for sure they will get handsome return. Now, where this AIF is invested, where this money is invested, based on that, AIFs are divided into 3 categories. Category 1, where money is invested into startups, such sectors which have potential to grow. Category 2, normal investment in equity market, capital market, debt market, mutual fund. So category 2 is normal investment fund. And category 3, which is very risky, where fund manager guarantees very heavy return, and it is also called hedge fund. So thereby this category 3 is risky, profit is very high, but then there is proportionate amount of risk as well. So category 1 AIF, category 2 AIF and category 3 AIF. And one further information that you need to work on, that in December 2023, RBI issued guidelines to NBFCs and banks regarding their exposure to AIF. This way you have to prepare. So second statement is correct. First statement is also correct. Now third statement. The SRI fund is operated by a consortium of private agencies approved by the SEBI? No. It is regulated by a government entity. It is government majority entity. So third statement is not correct. So answer will be A. First and second options are correct. Now, next question. Consider the following statements. Statement 1. In comparison to demand pull inflation, cost push inflation is less responsive to monetary policy measures. Absolutely correct. Demand pull inflation can be controlled by monetary policy tools. RBI has qualitative tool, quantitative tools through which supply of money and quality of money can be regulated. So demand pull can be regulated. But cost push is beyond the scope of central bank, because cost push inflation is caused by the rising of factor cost. When price of factors increase, when input cost goes up, controlling the cost of inputs does not fall within the ambit of the central bank. That is why first statement is correct. Like if a company is using petroleum product as input, and if petrol prices go up because of deteriorating situation in Gulf countries, RBI can't do much. So monetary policy tools are effective in terms of demand pull, but less effective or ineffective in case of cost push. Statement 2. Cost push inflation is driven by supply side factors, and monetary policy may have limited effectiveness in addressing these factors. Absolutely correct. So second statement actually analyzes, explains the first statement. Hence here in this question, answer is A. Both statement 1 and statement 2 are correct, and statement 2 is the correct explanation of statement 1. So in this question, answer is A. Next, with reference to the circular flow of income, circular flow is like this. In circle, consider the following: flow of goods and services. Second, payment of rent for land. And third, flow of wages for labor. How many of the above are considered as real flow? Real flow means physical flow. Or tangible flow. In this sense, only the first one is physical flow. It is also known as output flow. Whereas second and third is called income or money flow. Second and third are not real flow. Real means physical, tangible, visible. So in this question, only first one is correct. So answer is A. Next question. Which of the following statements best describes the capital conservation buffer? Capital conservation buffer, this concept was propounded under Basel III norms. You must have heard of Basel. Basel I, Basel I came in 1998. Basel II, that was propounded in 2004. Basel III, that came in 2010. Basel is a city of Switzerland where representatives of central banks of major economies, they meet and they devise a strategy guidelines for the banking sectors across the globe. Because after 1991, we find that our countries are getting converted into global village. We are very much connected. And if one bank collapses, it will have domino effect on other banks. And that is why it is imperative for global central banks or central banks of all the major economies to devise a mechanism through which financial crisis type situations can be avoided, through which collapse of banking sector can be avoided. So far as India is concerned, India has completed Basel II and India is transitioning towards Basel III. But if you look at the global or world level, Basel IV has already begun in 2017. But to implement Basel IV, our banks, they require huge amount of capital. That is why we are still at the level of Basel III. We completed Basel II. And who monitors the implementation of Basel parameters? It is BIS, Bank for International Settlement. BIS is the central bank of central banks. Now coming back to capital conservation buffer, Basel III talks about two buffers. One is capital conservation buffer, another is counter-cyclical capital buffer. The range of capital conservation buffer has to be 2.5% and counter-cyclical capital buffer from 0 to 2.5%. It is actually an extra amount every bank will set aside, that whenever adverse situation comes, they have enough capital, enough liquidity to sustain themselves. This is the concept of capital conservation buffer. So in the light of this set definition, if you look at the option A, it is the additional capital which corporates, no. Capital conservation buffer is for banks, not for corporates. Option 2, it is the additional funds which the government keeps, no. The use of word government, corporate, makes that option wrong, because capital conservation buffer has to do with the banks. Third, it is the additional capital which banks are required to hold to withstand periods of stress. This is capital conservation buffer. So for this question, answer would be C. Fourth option, it is the reserve funds maintained by RBI to maintain exchange rate stability in case of a flight of capital from domestic market. This is foreign exchange reserves. So in this question, answer is C. Next question. What does dynamic scoring refers to in the evaluation of fiscal policy proposals? Dynamic scoring means assessing the impact of fiscal policy on the citizens of the country. Like if you remember Laffer curve talks about that if we increase tax rate, tax revenue goes up. But when we keep increasing tax rates beyond a particular level, beyond a particular point, then tax revenue starts coming down instead of increasing. Now the question before the policymakers was, what is that ideal, optimum level of tax rate? And if a particular policy government is intending to implement, what will be its impact on different stakeholders of the economy? On corporates, on manufacturers, on small scale industries, on agriculture, on households. For that, if you remember in 2016, tax policy research unit has been constituted, TPRU. So dynamic scoring helps government assessing the impact of fiscal policy. So here, look at the option A, assessing the impact of policies on multiple economic variables over time. Absolutely correct statement, correct option. So for this question, answer is A. Because if you know the definition, there is no need even to read other options. Because this is the primary function of TPRU. TPRU was constituted only to assess the impact in the light of Laffer curve. So for this question, answer is A. Next question. With reference to the Reserve Bank of India, minimum reserve system is, now what is minimum reserve system? It is related to printing of new currency. And if we look at the history of RBI or history of printing of new currency, we have two systems. Till 1956, it is proportional reserve system, and from 1956 onwards we have minimum reserve system. Minimum reserve system has two variants. First, 1956 57, second 1957 till date. Now the second one, 1957 till date, there is one change that took place in 1993 between RBI and government, which was implemented in 1996. So minimum reserve system is a mechanism under which RBI prints currency. The latest requirement that a Reserve Bank has to keep is gold worth 115 crore and forex worth 85 crore. This is the minimum requirement, and government can get any amount of money printed by the RBI. Now we know the definition of minimum reserve system. Look at the question options. A, the minimum cash deposits that the scheduled commercial banks have to keep with the RBI. This is CRR, not minimum reserve system. So option A is incorrect. Option B, the minimum deposits that the scheduled commercial banks have to keep in the form of government securities. This is SLR, not minimum reserve system. So second option is also incorrect. Third, the minimum reserve that RBI has to maintain in the form of gold bullion and foreign currencies. Correct. And fourth option, the minimum amount that RBI has to earmark for lending to the state governments. Incorrect. So for this question, answer is C. Next question. Investors that provide to startup companies and small businesses that are believed to have long-term growth potential. It generally comes from well-off investors, investment banks, and any other financial institutions. However, it does not always take just a monetary form. It can be provided in the form of technical or managerial expertise. Which of the following types of investments has been described by the passage given above? In this passage, it is talking about venture capital. Why not angel investment? Because angel investments are done by high net worth individuals, not by investment bank. The word investment banks used in the passage plus technical support and managerial expertise. These two words are also mentioned. These three components are missing in case of angel investment. So in this question, answer would be venture capital. Now, the question talks about startup funding. What are the different stages of startup funding? Different forms of startup funding. What is angel tax? What is DIPAM? So, the best idea, I will reiterate myself, that when you attempt a particular MCQ, the focus should not be on getting the answer, but preparing that particular question from every aspect. Whatever terms, whatever concepts, whatever words have been used, that will not only boost your confidence, but it will actually help you revising your entire syllabus. Now, next question. In the context of National Asset Reconstruction Company Limited, consider the following statements. 1. It would house bad loans of rupees 100 crore and above. This amount is wrong. It is 500 crore. Second, it is the first asset reconstruction company where private sector banks hold the majority of the ownership. No. Majority of ownership is held by public sector banks. Public sector banks, they have 51% holding in NARCL. So second statement is incorrect. Third, it will be capitalized through equity from banks and non-banking financial companies. This statement is correct. So in this question, answer is A, only 3. NARCL. Here you have, there is IDRCL as well. Indian Debt Resolution Corporation Limited. And first one was NARCL. As I said, NARCL majority of holding lies with the public sector banks, but in IDRCL it is the private banks that hold majority shares, and these two are registered under SURFACE Act of 2002. Look at the point. How many concepts will keep popping up? Whenever you study, the moment you study SURFACE Act, you will come to DRT, and finally you will come to Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. IDRCL is functioning like an agent, and NARCL is functioning like a principal. So they both share principal-agent relationship, and together they are called PARA, Public Asset Rehabilitation Agency, or bad bank. Now, what are the other examples of bad banks outside India? What has been the reason behind the success of bad banks elsewhere? But in Malaysia, in America, in Spain, in Britain, the concept of bad bank was hugely successful. But when it came to China, the experiment of bad bank collapsed, failed. So what lessons that did we learn from Chinese experience? So this is the holistic approach towards preparing this NARCL, PARA, bad bank, or IDRCL. How do you justify constitution of bad bank in India? What are the issues related to NPAs in India? So this question will take you to the whole section of NPA, banking reform, and help you revise the whole segment. Next question. Consider the following statements regarding the foreign currency non-resident FCNRB. FCNR A. This account was started in 1975 by RBI. The same was replaced by FCNRB by RBI in 1993. But apart from FCNR, there are two more accounts. One, non-resident external account, and second, non-resident ordinary account. NRO account means money is going from India to abroad, and NRE account means money is coming from abroad to India. FCNRB is like NRE account. In these two accounts, NRIs, they deposit money with Indian banks. The difference is FCNRB is a foreign currency denominated account. And whatever money is deposited in FCNRB account, principal and interest both are tax free. And that is the main reason of attraction for NRIs to open FCNRB account with Indian banks. Now, what is the difference between FCNRB and NRE account? FCNRB will always be a term deposit. That means money will be deposited for a particular period. NRIs, they cannot open savings account, current account under FCNRB. But when it comes to NRE account, savings accounts are allowed. Current account is also allowed. So thereby, this is the difference between these two. Apart from this FCNRB account, NRE account, NRO account, there is one nostro. That means my money into your bank. It's a Latin word. And second is vostro, your money in my bank. So I gave you a broader hint about the concepts, hint about the themes that you need to prepare. Now look at this option. FCNRB accounts can be opened by both NRIs and overseas corporate bodies with an authorized dealer and Indian bank. Statement 1 is correct. Statement 2, repatriation of funds in FCNRB account is permitted. This is also correct. Third statement, deposits in these accounts are not included in India's external debt outstanding. It is included. So word not makes this statement incorrect. So in this question, answer is B for Bombay. First and second statements are correct. Next question. Which of the following represents built-in inflation? First of all, what is built-in inflation? It is also known as wage price spiral. When employees, they pressurize employers to increase their wages, the moment wages are increased, there is jump in price as well. Then again, wages increased further, price increases further. This spiral is known as built-in inflation. In the light of this statement, look at the option. Inflation caused by external factors, incorrect. Inflation caused by changes in government policies, incorrect. Third, inflation resulting from automatic increases in wages and prices, correct option. And last one is inflation driven by speculative activities in financial markets. This is also incorrect. So in this question, correct answer is C. Now, consider the following statements. 1. Scheduled commercial banks, regional rural banks, urban cooperative banks, small finance banks, local area banks. These are 5 banks, names, types are given. How many of the above are eligible to participate in the trading of priority sector lending certificates through Reserve Bank of India's eKuber platform? Answer is very simple, all 5. They all can trade in PSL certificates. Now, 2 things I would like to discuss. RBI mandates priority sector norms for all banks, every type of bank. For scheduled commercial banks, it is 40% of their total loan portfolio should go to PSL. priority sector, for regional rural banks, for small finance banks, for payment banks, for local area banks, it is 75%. Now, if a bank overachieves that target, then the excess portion can be sold by this bank to those banks which could not achieve their target. Every bank has to fulfill 40% to PSL. One bank achieves 50%, another bank 30%. Now, excess 10% of bank A can be sold to bank B so that it is earning for bank A and bank B can also comply with RBI direction. So this is PSL certificate. The second part of this question is, if no bank is able to overachieve or no bank is able to achieve, then who will sell PSLC? In the first scenario, one bank was overachieving. But imagine hypothetically, no bank is able to achieve their target. In that case, banks, they will have to contribute in rural infrastructure development fund. It was constituted in 1995, 96. This is for those banks which are not able to achieve their target and at the same time they are unable to buy PSL certificates. Now, for this question, answer is D for Delhi. Next question. In the context of finance, the term total expense ratio. Total expense ratio means how much is the cost of managing a fund. Like suppose if I am an investor, I have to invest in a mutual fund. What is the logistic cost? What is the maintenance cost? If that cost is high, my premium will increase. So total expense ratio is actually the total cost associated with managing and operating a mutual fund. This total expense ratio helps investors to make their informed decision, to make their right decision, which mutual fund to be invested, because if this ratio is high, that means that mutual fund is costly. Their return would be less. So for this question, answer is C. So we are done with today's session. We will come with the fifth session on Indian economy tomorrow, where we will again take up MCQs, and based on those MCQs, we will decipher important concepts and themes. Thank you so very much. Thank you.